for the least barrier to entry. So I'm trying to do it on a Windows box. The more I do this, the more I'm realizing that I'm kind of fighting an uphill battle, and maybe I should just do it on Linux. But I'm convinced that most of the people out there, if they want to try this, they want to try it on Windows. And what I might do is just do two versions when I do the HITL, one to try do it on Windows and one to try do it on Linux. And if I can't get it working on Windows, I'll just shift to Linux. But anyway, so what we have is for SITL, everything is on your laptop or everything is on your desktop. There is really nothing else. So we are installing PX4. We have a simulator, which in this case is JMapSim. There are other alternatives too as well, which are Gazebo and AirSim. Again, you're probably better off running the latter on Linux. And then what you need some sort of a ground control system. So the ground control system is typically Q ground control. That's really what everything is set up. And then if you're using Q ground control, there's no reason why you can't just connect with a joystick or a PlayStation gamepad type thing. And the last time I did this, I was using an Android client, which was the Map SDK client. So there are other ways. There are other ground control stations other than Q ground control. But Q ground control kind of is the de facto for what we're trying to do. So the simulator I'm going to use is JMapSim, which is going to be a WSL. Lessons learned in the PX4 documentation, it says that you can run Q ground control on WSL. WSL is Windows Systems Linux, so that's kind of a subsystem within Windows 11. Lessons learned for me is do not use Q ground control on WSL. It works with on Windows 11 really well, because basically what you're doing is you're faking it so that you have a Q ground control is running on one box. The JMapSim is working on WSL, which is technically a virtual machine, so it's seen as a different box. Everything's running though on the single laptop. Could not get Gazebo up and running. Think I'm probably going to have to try that again, or just get it running on Linux. Maybe that's what I'll do when we do until next month. Okay. There are lots of information about on the PX4, and I'll show you where the resources are to look at. This is to find it. This is just a really cut down version of what I needed to do to get everything running. So from PowerShell, what you do is you start WSL, going to git clone from PX4, make sure that you have the latest and greatest, and then you essentially CD into the library. You have to run a bunch of things to get JMapSim, all the prerequisites and all the libraries installed. The same for Ubuntu. I will say that if you are going to use the resources on any of the documentation on the PX4, is to follow the directions to the nth degree, because that seems to be the way to get it to work. If you don't, if you skip a step, you're going to be in trouble. I did not build Q ground control this time. I basically just installed it from the latest release from the Q ground control, just downloaded the latest release and went with that. When you get your prereqs up and running, you have to exit, shut down WSL, and then restart it so that everything is working again. I'll walk through this in a few minutes, because obviously this is going to be shorter than what I thought it was going to be. Okay, so you restart WSL from PowerShell, CD into the directory, and then on the Windows side, you want to find out what your IP is that you need to point it at. So you just run ipconfig, and then you go back into WSL, and you want to edit this file, this PX4 RC mablink, and then you just add this extra line, which is saying mablink start and whatever the IP address is. So that's kind of the hardest thing that you have to do, which really isn't that hard. And then when we go back to start it, what you do is you go back onto WSL and say make PX4 SITL JMapSim, and then that will start. You got to wait for it to go green to say ready for takeoff. And then once you do that, you can start Q ground control on Windows. Everything should work. So let me try that real quick. Here's all the resources. So this is where you start off. So docs.px4.io. Okay, so what do I have up and running? So I run my make PX4 SITL J mapsim. You gotta, like, one of the things that you probably want to do as well is you gotta make sure that this is like WSL uses really old school X11 for these windows. You got it ready for takeoff. So that's cool. So that's a really good sign. So you got to make sure that the very first thing I think that you should probably do is just type in X clock and make sure that X clock works. And if that works, then you're probably in a pretty good state to be able to use X11. X11 is really old. It's probably one of the first commercial applications that I worked on in, I'm really going to date myself, in the 90s. I was working on some X11 code. So it's been around since the 1990s, at least, if not earlier. But it's still basically the same thing. Okay, so we have everything set up. So this is our JMapSim that's running here. So if I want to run Q ground control, okay. Okay, it's ready to fly. That's really cool. So I'm just going to say takeoff, and then we should see JMapSim working in the background. Okay, you can change the settings to add these virtual sticks. So this is just, just gonna move it a bit around a bit, crash it into a tree, that kind of thing. I can up, go backwards. This side is just turning it around. Okay. And then, like, you can do all the other stuff, like you can set whatever missions you want to do, and but I just basically trying to get everything working together. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just reinstall it, and hopefully I can get it working again. Let me close out everything. Oops. Okay. What am I doing wrong here? I'm on Windows. I'm on. Does JMavSim have video streaming for a simulated camera? Yep, I didn't connect the camera, but there's no reason why you couldn't get the camera running. It would probably come out on Q ground control, but don't quote me on that. But that's probably what we're going to. One of the things I really wanted to do on the HITL side is I wanted to make sure that I could get everything working. So then I could start adding extra sensors. And the first thing that we're going to do is just add a small camera. So yeah, we'll try to do that next month. Okay, let me try this instead. Okay, so what are my list of commands to kind of go through this? So git clone. Probably should have done that before I answer the question. Okay. But yeah, that's really what I really want to do is make sure that we start adding different sensors, the obvious one being a camera. Don't think I'll go much further than that. But essentially all that was happening today was we were fighting with because you're running everything kind of on the same laptop, it just doesn't seem to be connecting in this, I couldn't get the IP addresses to bind correctly. So it was really a kind of frustrating afternoon, but we'll get there. So the goal is, of course, to use this to try and walk this through so I can show somebody really quickly on a video, which hopefully will go up on YouTube to, here's how to get SITL up and running with the least amount of frustration. It should be almost done now. Okay. So the next thing that I want to do after this is set up all the Ubuntu stuff. As you can tell, this is all brand new, isn't it? So we're going to set up the Ubuntu. We're going to run all the things that we need to run for JMapSim to run. I'm going to get out of this and then start WSL again. Okay, let me run this. The next command, just get the Ubuntu. Oh yeah, because I'm not in the, I got a CD. Can I remember my sudo password? Yay! Okay, so then we gotta get everything set up for JMapSim. Another lesson learned as well. If you start JMapSim and you see kind of this weird blue screen behind it, you need to get a better laptop. So I say this from personal experience. So essentially, you're going to need something with a decent graphics card. So the one that I'm running it on has a nice NVIDIA graphics card. It looks more like a desktop than a laptop, but it is a laptop. Okay, so let's get rid of this. That's definitely something that we found issues with. Okay, so get out of this, exit, Control D, and then do WSL dash dash shutdown. And WSL again. Okay, so let's go back into where we were. Let's get off. CD meetup, CD PX4. Okay, so now I need to find what my IP address is. So I'm just going to open this. So I type IP config. And my IP address is this 172.21.176.1. That's what I'm looking for. And if I go back into WSL, what I want to do is I want to edit this file. I'm just going to use nano, but you could use vi or anything else. Why does it not exist? That's crazy. Where is build? Hmm. Okay, that's not good. Let's do make PX4 SITL JMapSim. That's what I need to do first. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to add a bridge between the Windows 11 and the WSL. So in order to do that, I have to tell it, Turner, you want to say connect over Wi-Fi with QGC running a phone? Yeah, I have had QGC running on a phone as well. I've used that quite a bit. Thanks, Levi. And I think that works pretty good too as well. But I want to do everything on the laptop rather than being playing around with the phones, because I know when I start getting into the HITL side, I'm going to be doing lots more stuff, which will be, I'll have so many different things. We'll have the here link, you'll have the orange cube, you'll have everything else. So I think whatever the minimum amount of configuration I can have, it's a bit like when you're doing Android development. You want to start off with the emulator and just use the emulator, but then after a while, it becomes obvious that that's not going to be a viable option. So see, otherwise I'm going to have to do a find to find this. And there it is, yay. Okay, so now just on this thing here, what I need to do is add a -t to tell it what the IP address was. Just 172. But yeah, if you don't want to do this, you're quite right, Levi. You could just basically run QGC on your phone. Okay. All right, what's the next after that? So basically, now we can see if we can run it again. Make sure that it says ready for takeoff. Gotta wait a little bit. Let's start my Q ground control. Fingers crossed. Yay! It worked. The demo gods are good to me today. Okay, let's do takeoff. And just to show that, you know, this was definitely within the new directory. So we're in the meetup directory. So this is definitely the new one that we just created from scratch. So basically that's the steps. You need to get the git clone, run the two tools commands, find out what the IP address is. I'm pretty sure it's always the same for this WSL and this Windows 11 configuration. So you need to edit that PX4 or C.map link, and then just make sure that you add the -t and whatever it is, and then run jmapsim, and then you should have it running. Okay, I do not want to do that. I want to close this. Let's get rid of this. Thank you, Q ground control. Okay, let's go back to my notes again for a little bit more. Okay, so like I said, essentially you just need to run through that series of commands, make PX4, SITL, jmapsim, and WSL, and it should run okay. Q ground control on Windows. Tried to get them both running on WSL, but it couldn't seem to. I think they're both basically trying to talk on the same board. So lessons learned, Gazebo on Linux, not Windows. Try to get Gazebo up and running, try to get Gazebo Classic up and running. Didn't have a lot of success with that. And then on the QGC on Windows and jmapsim on WSL, like I just showed you, it's pretty straightforward. Not any issues. I didn't build Q ground control from scratch, but I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't do that too as well. If you are interested in doing that, there's several meetups where we've done it in the past. If you go to our YouTube, you can find it there. The one that you probably should look at is doing, how to set up custom images and custom fonts and custom text in QGC, because that'll walk you through how to build QGC from scratch. But essentially all I did was to download it from the Q ground control latest build. The October meetup, we're going to complete the second part of this, which is the HITL. So we're going to do HITL, which is the hardware in the loop. Got some interesting ideas about maybe trying to do it on a teal, but what I'd really like to do it is maybe do it on the orange cube and get the orange cube talking to a here link, because I think that's kind of the standard configuration that people use when they're trying to get HITL set up. But if somebody else has other ideas, I'm open to that too as well. Some of the resources would be the Civ TAC conference, which is at the start of October. I went to it last year. This is the second year. Last year was a day. This one is 3 days. This looks like there's some really good content there. Certainly my talk is technical. Looks like there's some other technical talks too as well. So if you want to learn more about how to create your own plugins, come to my talk or go to some of the other ones. The documentation with jmapsim is there. This is the IP binding that I was using for HITL, which I haven't got through yet. And then this is the link for trying to download and install QGC. And then next month, basically what we're doing is it's going to be the HITL side. So then the PX4 is going to be on the laptop, and then essentially everything else is going to be off the laptop. So we'll have Q ground control on our here link. And we'll also have the orange cube, which will be where we'll be running the actual PX4 itself, and then the only thing that we're going to be doing on the laptop is trying to join it all together. Okay, and then essentially this is what it's going to look like. We'll just have our orange cube. I really want to connect a camera, so at least we can get a sun sensor, because I think that's the main reason why you start using it. Don't think I'll get to a voxel. If we get enough time, I might do it as well. So it'd be nice to get a cube and a voxel just to show what that is. And then essentially what you need to do is just go into Q ground control and make sure that you have HITL enabled turned on. That's as far as I got today. Okay, let me just show you some of the different websites that I mentioned. Okay, a couple of people joining. So we are up to 617 members now, which is great. Seem to be adding like 30, 40 every time we do a talk, which is wonderful. Here's the URL for the JMapSim thing if you want to just follow along with what I did for whatever environment that you want, whether it's Mac or otherwise. QGC, if you want to download and install it, it's here. And then the other things would be the SIFTAC website. Really looking forward to this. I covered it over the last 2 months. So 2 months ago, we did ATAC plugins. Last month, we did TAC server, if you want to check that out. And then the exponential call for papers. I'm told they want more technical things this year. Full disclosure, I'm helping out with their security panel. So that's great if they want to get more technical stuff, because that's certainly my boat. I want to make sure that we're telling people how to do stuff so more people can do this and grow the community. Okay, I knew it was going to be short tonight. So anybody got any questions or any suggestions on what we should head up for the HITL stuff, or anything that you want me to do on any of the other things? Because I'm kind of running out. I'm not running out of ideas, but I'm using my ideas. And if anybody has any other ideas that they'd like me to look at, I'm more than happy to do that. Because the next one's going to be HITL. The one after that's going to be DJI Dock 2, because I think the whole infrastructure with the DJI Cloud and not using an RC is going to be really interesting. And we did have somebody from DJI talk about it before, but we're going to do a real app to just show you how it all fits together. But if anybody's got any ideas, I'm more than happy to listen, or if you want to talk yourself, seriously, if anybody wants to if you want to talk about what projects you're working on, that would be really cool too as well. Doesn't have to be me.
So Godfrey, we got a question from the YouTube. Do you have any experience working with airframes and SITL?
No, I don't, but I know somebody who does. What's the question? Do you have experience?
That is the question from Kin Blandford. So if Kin has a follow-up, feel free to type it in the chat, and I will forward it to you.
Okay, that's great. Does JMapSim? Yeah, we talked about that. The video streaming. We're going to do it next month. We'll get a camera connected, maybe a little GoPro or something else. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining. Apologies again for
I have one
missing last
question
week.
if you're not running out of time.
Say again?
Yeah, I have just one question.
Yeah, sure. No, we're not running out of time. Take your time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So usually in aerospace companies, right, they have the simulators built in C++ either in MATLAB with their own CFD data, right? So how do you do the HITL with the MATLAB? Have you ever done any sessions with that?
We actually had somebody from MATLAB talk about that exact thing. So if you go and have a look at some of the previous YouTubes, first of all, there's several things you can do. The easiest thing to do is go to reese.com, go to our YouTube channel, and then just go back a few months. There's I can't remember the name of the guy from MATLAB who did the talk. But we also Ronald George. That's right. Yeah. Ronald George. Okay. But Ronald is very interested in talking to the community. So if you can download the trial for 30 days and you can download whatever plugins you want. And if you want any support, we have a direct connection to the person who can help you.
Okay. Could you tell me the YouTube channel name, please?
It's if you go to reese.com, and then if you just scroll down to YouTube, that's the channel where we put everything up there. So if you find the previous month's meetups, you can find the one that was on MATLAB. And if you have any other questions, feel free to hit me up on the meetup. Happy to talk. And happy to introduce you to Ronald if you need to talk to him too as well.
Yeah, sure. I'll reach out. Thank you so much.
We have the YouTube channel and the blog, so all of these meetups get turned into blog articles, and then also this one appears on the PX4 Autopilot channel, where there'll be additional information. And actually, Godfrey's talk at the PX4 Developer Summit, which was on simulation, is there also.
Okay.
Gustama, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. I have a question related to DJI drones. So, is there any hardware HITL or SITL available for DJI drones, specifically DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise, by which we can, let's say, use to create autonomous navigation algorithms using ROS or
Yeah,
something
there's a
like
DJI
this?
simulator. Well, Ross, actually, you said the word Ross. Um,
Yes.
um, there's a first of all, the simplest answer to the question is on the DJI side, there's a DJI simulator. So you should definitely be able to use the DJI assistant to connect to the drone. And I do know that there are ways around it. Maybe that's something that we should show later, because we use because we're cheap. We use the DJI Mini 3s a lot to do development because they're a hell of a lot cheaper than the Mavic 3s. The Mavic 3 Enterprises. So you can create your own simulator. You don't necessarily need to use the DJI Assistant to get you the simulator, but that does not do ROS.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
got
so the
it.
way that we do ROS is usually with the PSDK, which is a different beast altogether. Because you can do ROS with the PSDK all day long, and you can set up whatever nodes you want, and then whatever raw simulation environment you can use with the PSDK. But that's the direction I would go. In fact, I think actually that would make a really interesting talk for a future talk, how to use ROS with the DJI PSDK. So I'll add that to the list.
I'm exploring the using the PSDK because the current SDK or mobile SDK doesn't give you full access to the some specific things like accessing the downward camera and all that. So yeah, I'm also looking into that. That would be really good
Yeah,
session
I know
if
that the PSDK speaks ROS too, so there
yeah,
should
yeah, it
be a
does.
reason why you couldn't use whatever ROS 2 tools that you're using today and just get it to connect to the whatever node you have on the PSDK.
Yeah,
Yeah,
got it. Thank you.
great idea. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Thanks, guys. Really good feedback today. Anybody got any other questions or comments? Just feel free to hit me up on the meetup group and talk to you next month.